What's going on, everybody? Jay Howe here, and in this Diablo 3 video I'm going to bring you a wizard build revolving around the Tal Rasha set. The Tal Rasha set received a huge overhaul in patch 2.2. I'm going to go over some of the options that you can use to make this really shine for you. Now this is going to be more for a casual to a decent level Greater Rift build. There's a more aggressive build out there that I'll bring you guys as well. I think this is going to fit most people's playstyle. I'll also go over one of the big changes that you can use to be able to make this work in Season 3 phenomenally well. For the skills, Shock Pulse with Piercing Orb, Blizzard with Frozen Solid, Black Hole with Spell Steal, Hydra with Mammoth Hydra, Magic Weapon with Force Weapon, Teleport with Calamity, and for your passives, Astral Presence, Glass Cannon, Unstable Anomaly, and Elemental Exposure. Now, let's go over, I'm going to do this a little bit backwards. Let's look at the gear first real quick as far as the 2-piece and 6-piece bonuses. The 2-piece of the Tal Rasha says damaging enemies with Arcane, Cold, Fire, or Lightning will cause a meteor of the same type to fall from the sky. There's an 8-second cooldown for each damage type. So you want to be able to hit with each different element to get different meteors raining down at different times, which means you want to use each of one of those elements. Now, the other part of that, attacks, for the 6-piece, attacks increase your damage by 150% for 6 seconds. Arcane, Cold, Fire, and Lightning attacks each add 1 stack. Adding a stack refreshes the duration. Now, that's going to actually go off once you hit that 4 stack, and then you just start refreshing it. So the idea is you want to go ahead and attack with each different element, and you want to be able to keep the meteors raining down, and at the same time you also want to be able to get that 150% damage increase. The 4-piece bonus is attacks increase your resistance to that damage type by 100% for 6 seconds. So that also increases your resistances, so it's a nice thing. Now I'm going to go over why you're going to use these different skills and how it becomes very effective for you. Shock Pulse with Piercing Orb. This is going to take care of our lightning skill. You could have gone any number of directions, but this one will actually pass through enemies and allow you to be able to proc this at different points of your attack, while you can generally focus one area and do a decent amount of damage to be able to shoot this through. This is going to be your arcane power generator, and it's also going to be your lightning skill to bring down the lightning meteor. Now, Blizzard with Frozen Solid. Now there's a couple specific reasons why you're going to use a couple of these skills. Frozen Solid gives you a little bit of crowd control. 2.5 seconds, the enemies are going to be frozen for 100% chance to be frozen. So the part with this is that you're going to cast it. As you can see, it actually rains down for quite a few seconds. This will help you take care of, especially if you're trying to get this proc every time on your set bonus. There's an 8-second cooldown. Now, this doesn't come down necessarily that long, but if you're trying to do that, you don't want to sit here, cast the lightning spell, cast a cold spell, cast a fire spell, and rotate over and over and over again. You want to have generally focused damage with a purpose. So one of the things that you can do for this is if that goes and it procced a few seconds ago, it's going to still rain down. So your cold skill is actually going to continue while you're doing everything else. Black Hole with Spell Steal. Now this is one that you are going to change if you're playing Season 3, and I'll tell you what you can do there. This takes care of the Arcane skill. Enemies hit by a Black Hole deal 10% reduced damage for 5 seconds, plus you get the increased damage. Now, you're going to use this in the sense that, one, it's going to proc your Arcane Meteor. Secondly, it's going to have everybody grouped up. So if you're looking to rain down a meteor, it's generally going to help if they're all in one area. So hitting this before you start casting some of your other skills is going to be great in terms of doing what you intend to do by grouping them up and drop meteors on them, successive meteors of each kind. Hydra with Mammoth Hydra. Now this is really good, especially in Greater Rifts, because this benefits greatly from the 6-piece bonus with the damage. Now they actually fixed this. It was way overpowered on the PTR, and it got dropped down some. Now, if you have a Serpent Sparker, this works even better because you can put 2 down. They benefit from the extra damage there from all your other skills, plus you can see that they're actually staying up a while. This actually runs to the same principle as Blizzard. Blizzard's going to be up a few seconds. Your Mammoth is going to be up a few seconds. So this can continue to proc your meteors that are going to come down from the 2-piece bonus. So having stuff coming down allows you to cast other skills But in the meantime, it's going to continue to proc your Tal Rasha set, and that way you don't have to continue to rotate 4 separate skills. And that's going to take care of your lightning, your cold, your arcane, and your hydra. Now, if you're playing Season 3, there's a pair of bracers called Ranslor's Folly. And it means that your energy twister, which is your tornadoes, are going to suck in enemies every so often. It says periodically. Now, the best thing you can do about that is run something like Wicked Wind. The part about Wicked Wind is basically a second version. If you're running the bracers, it's like a second version of Black Hole, but it's going to sit in place. So everything around is going to be sucked into this one part, as opposed to Black Hole, where it has a little bit smaller radius and it has a cooldown. Your tornado has no cooldown and only costs arcane power. So this actually works really well to group enemies, so you can rain down those meteors with the same basic principle as the Black Hole skill. So if you're playing Season 3, go that route after you get the bracers. If not, you can run something with Black Hole and Spell Steal in the meantime. Magic Weapon with Force Weapon, simply because this gives you a 20% damage increase, and it's very nice to have on there. Now, here's something that you can actually do a little differently. If you're playing a much more casual play style, Calamity. Now, this actually will go, and it's going to be able to stun enemies for 1 second, plus it does damage. If something like your Black Hole is on cooldown, or you're in danger and you want to go, it actually is going to go twofold. It's going to proc your Arcane Meteor, so you don't have to worry about Black Hole, and it's also going to stun enemies. Now, if you're playing casual and you have something like an Aether Walker, you can actually run this and teleport around everywhere you want. This wand says that teleport no longer has a cooldown, but costs 25 arcane power. And you can see that I have more than enough regeneration here to be able to get quite a few of these out without having to worry about much. So there's a couple different playstyles you can go with. I still recommend, if you're looking for pure damage Serpent Sparkers, or the Serpent Sparker, if you're running T6, you're not really going to use both Hydras much except for on the Greater Rift boss, so that's up to you. But if you're taking it into Greater Rifts, you're generally going to have this to be able to have 2 Mammoth Hydras up to deal that extra damage. They're going to do great there. Now, if you don't like that and you're just more about survivability, you can run other options here, such as Wormhole. That way you can teleport twice. Now, the passives, again, you're going to have a couple options here as well. Increase your maximum arcane power by 20 and arcane power regeneration by 2.5. Now you got to understand, you're going to be using different arcane spenders, so the more that you spend, the more arcane power you're going to need. Now your only generator is going to be your lightning skill, and that's going to come, as needed once you get everything in the full thing. So you can actually see, as things go here, you can see the stack is now up to 4. It has 6 seconds, and it's going to go. Now again, we can't refresh it until it loses its stack. So that's one thing. Keep that in mind when you're doing that in terms of how you're rotating your skills. Astral Presence is great there to be able to have that reduction. Glass Cannon. This increases all damage done, but decreases armor and resistances by 10%. Now, it doesn't really matter with your resistances, because the 4-piece is actually going to increase your resistances when you're using this. So when you're stacking your Paragon points, you want to make sure and go armor first to be able to get some of that armor back. Now, if you're having trouble with survivability, you could run Blur here, or you could even swap out Astral Presence for Blur and just go a little bit slower. Unstable Anomaly, this is basically your second life, and it's a great thing to have, so it's kind of hard to go away from this. Elemental Exposure, this is a huge one because you're using all elements, and this allows you to get an extra 5% more damage from all sources for 5 seconds. Each different damage type applies a stack, stacking up to 4 times. Same basic principle as your Tal Rasha 2-piece, 4-piece, 6-piece bonus there. And so that actually makes use of that. So that's a great one to use to get that extra damage. So there's a couple of options you can go there. And again, if you're playing Season 3, definitely get rid of Black Hole and just go with your Energy Twister, and you're going to do great there. If you're looking for any other options, you can go with some other things such as Illusionist for more survivability, or any number of directions you want to go. But it's really great. Now, for the gear, it's going to be a little bit dependent on how you really want to take this. But to be able to maximize your damage, it's going to pretty much need to be almost fixed. Now, you want to get the 6-piece bonus of Tal Rasha, and you can do that by going with the offhand, the pants, the belt, the chest, the helm, and the necklace. Now, the thing about the offhand, if you have your old pieces, they're all retroactive, so you can actually just take those and add them in. They added some new pieces in the pants and the gloves, so if you have those on the new drops, then that's really good. But if you had the offhand before, you're going to want to get a new one. And you can see there at the bottom of the primary, increases meteor damage between 20 and 25%. That's a guaranteed roll on the new Tal Rashas. And meteor is where most of your damage is going to come from by proccing that 2-piece bonus there by rotating all 4 meteors coming down. It's super strong and definitely worth having there to have that extra damage. Now, on your chest piece, having Hydra damage is very important there as well. You're going to have increased attack speed on there, so you have a few things to play with. So having Hydra damage on there works really well. Now, if you had a decent amulet, you would obviously roll a socket on there, same as your rings. Now, here's an item that hopefully you have, and if you don't have, that's okay. But Tasker and Theos are going to work really well. Now, this is strictly because of your Mammoth Hydras, and we went back to that. They're going to be getting all the damage buff from the 6-piece bonus, and also staying up for much longer than anything else you have, and doing quite a bit of damage. The faster they attack, the more damage they do. So keep that in mind if you have that. If you don't have something like that, you can run with something like Mage Fist, or any other gloves that you have, or if you just have a nicely rolled pair of any other gloves, you can put that there as well. If you really wanted to get fancy with it and you didn't have anything like that, you could roll something like the Del's Arrays set to be able to have a couple different things going here with gloves and shoulders, but you'd pretty much have to incorporate slow time in there, and that's just another build for another time. Now, for shoulders, I just have this on here because I rolled this over from something else. You would obviously have Hydra damage on here if you're running that. One item that a lot of people have been using since this shoulder slot's been open with the way a lot of gear's been configured is the Pauldrons of the Skeleton King, which drop from the Act 1 cache, which has a chance for you to get another life. And that's a good thing that a lot of people have been running, to be able to have that extra life just in case. It's a small chance, but in greater rifts, that really comes into play. Having meteor damage rolled on your helmet and your boots is very important, which leads me to the next thing. This is a new item in patch 2.2, Nilfr's Boast. And you're going to see here you can roll meteor damage on there in the primary, but in the orange text in the secondary, increase the damage of meteor by 100%, which is phenomenal. That's going to affect all your meteors that are raining down from Tal Rasha. So you can see where the theme is here with the meteors, and this just kind of adds to it. Now, now when your meteor hits 3 or less enemies, basically when you're doing single target damage like on the Rift boss, the damage is increased, and that can roll anywhere between 150 to 200%, so keep that in mind there. That's a huge bonus to be able to have, so having these is pretty much a necessity going forward. Now, if you don't have the Ranslor's Folly, something like Strong Arm Bracers actually works really well, especially if you're using Black Hole as a type of crowd control element there, because you're going to be able to get the knockback effect plus the extra damage there. And then you're going to want to roll fire skill damage on there because you'll have the Hydras breathing the fire, and that's going to be very important. To wrap that up, having the focus and restraint rings, which were redone in patch 2.2, is also important. This says when you hit with a resource generating attack or primary skill, you do 50% increased damage for 5 seconds. And when you hit with a resource spending attack, you also deal that extra 50% damage, which stacks multiplicatively, and you do increase damage. Since you're going to be using Shock Pulse in the meantime while you're casting everything else, it's going to be very important to keep that up, and you're going to see huge numbers dropping down from all the meteors that you've got going. Now, if you were running legendary gems, the gems that you're probably going to want to run are things like the Zai Stone, Bane of the Trapped, and your Gem of Efficacious Toxin, although you can go any number of directions there, like Bane of the Powerful, or any other options there, any type of defensive legendary gem, all those are going to help. For your Paragon points, movement speed being maxed out in conjunction with your gear, the rest into intelligence. Your offense, crit hit damage, crit hit chance are very important. If you're running something like Black Hole, cooldown reduction is important. If not, go with attack speed and you're going to get a nice big increase there, because Black Hole right now is really the only one unless you're running Calamity as well, so keep that in mind depending on which way you want to go there. Defense, armor first, life, and then all resistances, and then life regen. If you feel you have a ton based on how well you can do all this with the 4-piece bonus, then you're going to go with armor, life regen, and then all resist. For your utility, area damage is really nice. Keep in mind that if you do need the extra help there, resource cost reduction and life on hit are extremely vital, so keep that in mind. So that's the build, that's the gear. If you're cutting off here, I appreciate you guys watching. If you do like the build and you do like the video, feel free to hit that like button below because that is always appreciated. I'm going to hop in to do some gameplay right now to show you a couple tricks as far as what I was talking about in terms of how you want to be able to cast your skills to be able to get the different buffs and bonuses. So we'll go in, we're just going to go into T6, into some bounties here, but keep in mind that the same basic principles are going to apply once you go into your greater rifts. Like I said, this is a pretty good build to run with. There's a far more aggressive build out there that can take you a bit further, but the idea is you group everything up, and you can see right there we didn't even have time for the cold meteor to drop. That was just from the and if you do fire, you're going to see the big fire meteor drop, and you see like big damage there. And that's what I was talking about. You could see blizzard still raining down because I'd casted it before. Now I'm getting the bonus benefit from the fact that it's casting, and it's still casting and freezing stuff, and then I want to cast another skill, and then I can cast another skill, and then I can also cast my my main attack there. And once I start casting my my lightning attack, you can actually see everything grouping up there. So that's why I said you're going to get the bonus from the focus and restraint from casting both of your skills. You can see that I haven't procced it yet, and then being able to have meteor come down, it actually worked out really well in the sense that if you cast it and it's already gone and you cast it again, it's going to have enough uptime to be able to proc that 2-piece bonus, so you can continue to do all your other attacks in the meantime. And you can see there that the Hydra just, you know, burns things down, so it's a really nice thing to have there. But your same basic principles are going to apply. As you can see, grouping stuff up is going to be huge, getting your meteors down. That was another example. I had the Mammoth Hydra down. I was still on the 8-second cooldown from the 2-piece bonus there, but it was up long enough that it went ahead and procced it again. So that's what I'm saying is all of your skills that you're going to be using, and if you're doing this in rapid succession, obviously the cooldown is going to be far more important. And if we want to be able to stun, that's the whole whole calamity thing going there. But as you can see, we can do this, and you're going to see big numbers there. And they get even bigger once you get everything going. You have all 4 stacks from your Tal Rashas. You have both your focus and restraint going. And then you're going to see much bigger numbers once you have everything going in there, and be able to rain down meteors quite successively and for lots of damage. So again, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. If you did like the video and you want to hit that like button below, that is greatly appreciated. And until next time, guys, happy hunting. See you again.